Tune in at 7. The Champ Cars and V8s are coming to town, and it's never looked so good.
Feel like having fun? Well, here it is. We'll look after the fast and the furious. All you've got to do is handle the pace. The Champ Cars and the V8s and everything else on the streets of Surface. The Lexmark Indy 300. It's Australia's biggest motorsport party, and it's only on 7. Well, we've just about seen it all on the Gold Coast, but is this the day we've been waiting for? History beckons here in the Champ Car World Series, and it's also a crucial time for the V8 Supercar Championship. It is race day Sunday on the streets of Surface Paradise. Hello, I'm Matthew White. Welcome to the Lexmark Indy 300 on 7. Team Australia's Will Power has pole position for the Champ Cars today. Can he become the first local and the 17th different winner of this event? What about the V8s? Well, race 2 is coming up very soon. We've already had one race, and Neil Crompton Garth Tander has struck the first blow.
Morning, Matty. Yes, in fact, great news for the championship, because 3 of the top 4 in the championship coming into this race finished in the first 3 positions yesterday. And as always, we had a great race, 27 laps, 120 kilometres, 20 Ks longer than the same time last year. And a great start for James Courtney, pressured by Garth Tander. Good stoush on here between the 888 runners, and in fact Jamie Whincup was very fast, set a new lap record yesterday. Bit of trouble there for Stephen Richards and Jason Bright, and then ditto that remark because Jason ended up in the wall here. Big damage on the left-hand side of the car. It follows on from Bathurst and the trouble in practice here. They've parked that car. Mark Scaife ran wide at turn 10 at the end of the race. He tripped Mark Winterbottom into the fence. Meantime, this fellow, Garth Tander, did a fantastic job.
He certainly did. His 11th race win of the season out of 26 that we've had, and the 4th time that he's found the checkered flag first here on the streets of the Gold Coast. 27 degrees at the moment. Fine is the forecast. Track temperature 36, but it's a little hotter in the Super Cheap Auto Garage. Paul Dumbrell's car number 20 on the warm-up lap has been dropping oil pretty much all the way around the circuit. Dumbrell is out of the car and very, very dejected. And I can tell you, Neil, that the other guys on the grid are not very happy because they're wondering about just how much oil has been left behind.
Well, that's an indication. Lots of it all around the racetrack. Many drivers talking about how much is on the race line. Paul Dumbrell unaware, of course. They're trying to use oil soak to solve the problem, but drivers are being warned to be extremely careful on their first racing lap around here, because clearly you could make a mistake on that and get yourself in lots of trouble.
They're lining up down the main straight. The problems will start for them the exit of turn 4 as they head back up towards the other side of the circuit, the beach on their right.
Green flag.
So now as they go for an installation, a warm-up lap, we'll take a look at the Fuso grid for this race. This is how they finished race 1. Tander went from pole to victory. Jamie Whincup had a super fast car and he went all the way. His teammate Craig Lowndes 3rd. Russell Ingall 4th. It was a fantastic battle between the Enforcer and the Kiwi Greg Murphy, and at the end Ingall just got him by a fraction. In fact, Murphy thought he'd got him, but the positioning of the checkered flag as opposed to where the finish line was a little bit out of whack, so Murphy ends up in 5th position. Dean Canto and Jason Richards start side by side, 9th and 10th.
Yeah, just to further explain that, the control line where the timing loop is in the road is a different reference point to the location of the checkered flag, and so those two fellas had a great run all the way to the end, and in the end, of course, it fell in Russell's favour, but it was so close. Looking further down the order, Steve Owen and Jack Perkins there. Steve Owen's had a pretty good run so far this weekend. Mark Scaife has had a shocking run. Found the wall on the outside of turn 10, as you saw before, tripping this fellow over, Mark Winterbottom, along the way. These fellas at Ford Performance Racing finished after midnight last night, damage to a front rail. damage also to the diff housing and lots of work. Paul Dumbrell, of course, in the pit lane at the moment, not taking his spot on the grid. Some brake issues yesterday for Owen Kelly in the Team Cirame Wines entry. If you didn't join our telecast yesterday, Owen is going to run car number 39 through the balance of the season now in the remaining meetings. Todd Kelly, they had a steering arm problem in the HRT car. All of a sudden, the steering was half a turn out on the steering lock. Just reported to his engineer Matthew Crawford that suddenly began to feel strange. They had to park the car. These fellas both in strife as well, both of them in the wall in the Team BOC entries. Lots of money spent, and I should also make mention of the fact again, unfortunately we do not have Brightek here today in the Fujitsu car. Jason Bright out of business.
After the heartbreaking did not start at Bathurst for Super Cheap Auto, we can tell you that with Paul Dumbrell's car, all it has done is dropped an oil line, but you saw the smear right around the circuit. It's left a lot of debris behind, and here in pit lane it's puddled well and truly. No engine dramas. Of course, they did replace the engine on Friday. They had some oil pressure problems, but nothing mechanically wrong with the engine. But it seemingly looks like the engine dramas for Super Cheap are continuing. He won't partake in this race because there's just way too much oil in the engine bay. She'd be a walking smoke machine.
Boys, you spoke earlier about Greg Murphy's great result yesterday. He is just walking around on his tippy toes at the moment. He's very happy with where he's at. They've been working all season with the rear end of his Commodore. Now, what they've managed to do is finally sort out the combination of dampers and springs. Murph says they've really found the sweet spot at last, and it's given him a new lease of confidence, and that's what you saw yesterday. He's looking forward to evening the score with Russell Ingall today, but he is a brand new Greg Murphy for this season on the track at the moment.
Russell Ingall is so confident in the pace of his car that I think he'll play a slightly different strategy today, possibly running a little longer as we go on board here with Mark Scaife. Back onto the Fujitsu car and Brightek, and it's a $500,000 year-to-date bill so far for damage for those guys. That car, we saw it last night being loaded onto a flatbed truck being taken up to Brisbane for some open heart surgery, and then they'll take it back to Melbourne and work on it in the workshop in the next couple of days because the teams have got to fly their crews across to Bahrain next Sunday. The cars will fly out of Avalon between Melbourne and Geelong next Monday, so they've got very little time to turn it around, and it's certainly very disappointing for those fellas as we go on here with Stephen Richards. What a run yesterday. Tagged the wall at the braking approach to the pit lane entry for his compulsory pit stop. He just completely blew it. I spoke to him last night. He just said, mate, I just lost where I was on the racetrack, and I had to bring it to a stop because I knew I would blow through the speed limit. And when he did it, he locked the rear brakes, tagged the wall on the right, did damage to the car, and then his whole race really unravelled from that point. He got tangled up with Jason Bright a couple of times. Jason Bargwana propped at turn 12, and there was just aggravation down the order.
There's Rick Kelly, dropped from 3rd to 4th in the championship after race 1. A flip between the Toll HSV teammates. Whincup leads the championship. Lowndes is 2nd, Tander is now 3rd, and Rick Kelly is 4th. 27 laps, 120 kilometres, 30 starters for this race. It's Tander versus Whincup on the front row. Lowndes and Ingall on the 2nd. Murphy and Courtney row 3. Ingall got a terrific start yesterday.
Greg's weakness yesterday was coming off turn 12, and he hopes he's made a couple of adjustments to fix that today.
So here we go. The V8 Supercar Challenge. Check that out from Garth Tander, straight out the box. No messing about it. He will lead them down to turn 1.
What a launch from Tander. He just got instant bite and just disappeared down the road. Fantastic start. Trouble back in the mid-pack here, and it's one of the Jim Beam cars, and I think with one of the Gary Rogers Motorsport entries. And so far everybody else surviving. That one, Dean Canto, it was in car number 34.
And Stephen Johnson.
Jamie Whincup to 2nd, Russell Ingall to 3rd, then Craig Lowndes, James Courtney, Rick Kelly. Quietly achieved yesterday. More trouble. Alan Gurr backing up here into turn 3, arriving sideways. Someone getting stuck into him along the way, and very fortunate not to end up rubbing down one of those concrete walls. Gets away with it.
Started way back, pretty much at the exit of turn 2. Normally they go so deep into 3 they end up in the runoff. That time Alan Gurr was ending up going in there backwards. So Tander brings him up. Whincup's there. Ingall's got in front of Lowndes.
Tyre management is an important issue in these 3 races this weekend. 12 tyres allocated, 3 sets. Races a little longer than they were last year. 120 kilometres, 27 laps, and isn't that a fantastic shot heading northbound? Main Beach Parade past the turn 7 chicane complex. A little trouble there for Steve Owen, running wide on the braking approach to turn 8.
Good news is from turns 4 onwards, there doesn't appear to have been any trouble with that oil line and the problem that Paul Dumbrell had on the installation lap.
Well, Steve Johnson and the Jim Beam boys very disappointed in Dean Cantor. They feel that he turned Steve around. They're going to bring Steve Johnson in and take a look at the damage.
Off the start, an amazing launch from Garth Tander. About midfield, probably there was a bit of contact, and here Dean Canto almost found himself.
Well, both the Jim Beam cars were wrapped up in that one. It's a little bit hard to see who did what to who, because 3 into 1 definitely does not go at the turn 1 chicane. Sorry, the turn 2 chicane, and it's typical of the sort of incident we see down there. Let's have a look at this one from the other angle here. You'll see Alan Gurr arrives pointing in the wrong direction. One of the Team BOC cars was involved in that. He actually did make contact with the wall. I didn't realise that he'd given it a rub, and reasonably solidly so. 158.6 for Garth Tander, and it was a 1 second margin. You look at him disappearing.
Start. That's pretty much start of the year, and here's the damage to the Irwin Tools entry.
And that's what Brightech do not need. They've been working 20-hour days since Bathurst to get their cars up here. So another car to repair this week before the trip to Bahrain. Jason Richards, he's down the order in 8th at the moment. I made mention of Rick Kelly before. And Rick yesterday creeping into the top 10, keeping that championship alive. We'll talk a lot about championship in the remaining rounds now of this series. From this race on, 200 odd points available. And it's a real seesaw battle between Tander, Whincup and Lowndes at the top of the points table.
Bring that rear bar up a click or two if you need more front, mate.
That lap for 152 from Tander. The quickest of the top 3. Russell Ingall 152.5. Another good start from the Enforcer. He did it yesterday. And the only thing he couldn't do was thread the needle. He was snaking up behind them. And this time he got 1 position off the start, off the man we're on board with, down towards turn 3, Craig Lowndes.
Car number 5, Mark Winterbottom, race director, is looking at loose rear bodywork on that car. Ingall 52.5, as you say, 3rd. Very confident with the behaviour of that car last night after he'd finished his early evening debrief.
Jason Bright, this team manager business is tough stuff.
And we just can't take a trick this year, can we? I mean, you know, after the week the guys have already had preparing the car after Bathurst, and you know, the 2 days that we had in the lead up, you know, to see this on the first lap of this race is pretty heartbreaking. You know, the guys, I feel sorry for them. Well, they've just put in an amazing couple of weeks to you know, get both these cars here. So, you know, we'll have a look at it and see if we can get it back out there for the next one.
Your car's already gone. It's a tight turnaround to Bahrain. Can we make it there?
Well, yeah, I mean, we just didn't have an option last night. You know, we had to send it up to Brisbane and you know, get it on the jig up there, and it's being worked on today and tomorrow. Hopefully we'll try and get it back to Melbourne on Monday night, and you know, the guys will have a busy week ahead of them to get it, you know, all fixed before Saturday.
I'd like, thanks, Jason.
Yeah, cheers.
One of the movers through the field at the moment is Mark Scaife. Made up 5 positions from the start. He's up to 12th now. And is also putting down good sector times, but so too, obviously, with a clear run, Garth Tander. Looking out the back of Rick Kelly's car on the Greg Murphy.
51.7 for Garth Tander on that lap. Looking at this lap speed and remembering that they're starting with 80 odd kilos of fuel. I don't reckon the track's quite as quick at this point. They're probably using their older tyres. Race leader is Garth Tander. He's got a 1.5 second margin over Jamie Whincup and Russell Ingall with a watching brief in 3rd. We'll take a brief break. Be back in a moment.
benchmark Indy 300, the V8 Supercar Challenge. This is the second of 3 races this weekend. Garth Tander, the winner of race 1. He leads the way in race 2.
And a mechanical black flag for Mark Winterbottom, car number 5. Loose rear bodywork for the Ford Performance Racing entry. Oh, trouble here for Will Davison, tagging the wall. I think that's at turn 8, the northernmost point of the racetrack. He's locked the rear brakes just at the turning point with Winterbottom behind him. In fact, the driver that I just spoke of who'll get a mechanical black flag this time through. Jamie Whincup, second.
Well, yesterday we saw the most unusual circumstance of Stephen Richards crashing on pit lane entry. Boys, we could be in for a little bit more drama once the pit lane becomes active, because take a look what's coating the pit entry. It is as dirty as a country dirt road at the moment. Kitty litter everywhere. Obviously, that's the substance that's used to soak up the oil from Paul Dumbrell's Holden, but what's left behind is an ice skating rink on approach to the pit lane. They're coming from quite a high speed. That is a dangerous approach and as slippery as a Gold Coast used car salesman.
And fluids being reported dropping from cars 17 and 18 at the moment. Stephen Johnson and Will Davison, possibly as a result of what happened to Will there a moment ago. So race control looking at that. Incidentally, the fastest lap of the race has just been done by Andrew Jones, down the order, but pretty speedy at the back of the pack. 51.3, 1 minute 51.3. He's 28th in the field at the moment.
There's Winterbottom from 29th in race 1 up to 20th. Of course, was on track for something a little bit better than that. And there's that damage that you're talking about to the rear of the Orcon Ford Credit Falcon.
Fastest first sector split of the race so far, Garth Tander at 49.8. Still holding about a 1.5 second margin over Jamie Whincup. That brand new car that Wincup's driving has been behaving really well. I spoke to him last night and he's so relaxed about its behaviour and performance. Very easy to tune, nice car to race, and he rounded up Craig yesterday, who wasn't quite as happy with the balance of his car.
Neil, very busy here in the Ford Performance Racing Garage. Team boss Tim Edwards is with me. Tim, do you know what's happened to Mark Winterbottom?
Yeah, someone's run into the back of him, and it's just there's a little cosmetic strip underneath the back bumper that's hanging down. So we're going to bring him in on the next lap.
Been a tough weekend, mate.
Yeah, we're getting involved in everybody else's incident, so I think all those stories about Chinamen and black cats and things like that, I think they're all true.
All right, mate, hope the luck picks up.
Let's go for a ride with Craig Lowndes. Team Vodafone 888 car, 4th on the road. In front of him is Russell Ingall. WPS turn onto the Esplanade. Let it loose now. Touching 243 kilometres.
Closing speed there for Lowndes under brakes.
You'll be the pioneer on this oil, so you have to be cautious there, but push up close.
Campbell Little just warning Craig about that oil that Grant made mention of a moment ago. 51.1, fastest lap of the race for Garth Tander. It's a 240 kilometre an hour closing speed into that turn 7 chicane. Now at turn 8, these corners are all basically 80 kilometres an hour. Oh, someone went straight up the escape road at 8 then with a huge clip of pace. Just saw it through the background, and it's one of the Toll HSV cars. I'm assuming that was Rick. Yes. Throttle jam. The throttle jammed.
I just saw that. Safe to continue, or do you need to continue?
So Lowndes will be peeling off. This is Kelly down the order now. Very lucky to survive that one. The throttle jammed on car number 1. Jamie Whincup, new fastest lap of the race. Let's listen to this one.
Yeah, spot on, Neil. Throttle jam for Rick Kelly. They're just working out whether they need to bring him in to try and work on that problem.
Clear, watch it this way.
Nice stop. 51 even for Stephen Richards.
Remember, there's two parts of pit lane now for the V8s here. They exit their pit lane at 40 Ks. Now they join the Champ Car pit lane. 104 kilometres. Now he can rejoin the racetrack on that line.
Tander's margins out to 1.88 seconds now. Watch this. There goes Rick down the escape road. Didn't look quite so bad from that angle. The other shot that we saw looking from turn 9 backwards, it looked pretty frightening. Now you could hear it. You could hear the engine in the background. So he's had to do a flick spin here.
And again, Stephen Richards posting good sector times. The leader, Garth Tander. Jamie Whincup, second, comes around turn 8. Russell Ingall, third. Courtney, fourth. Also coming into picture now, the Tasman Motorsport entry of Greg Murphy, fifth.
Well, Russell Ingall getting back to Stone Brothers on the radio saying he is over the moon with the car at the moment. The Falcon is firing for him. As a result, they're going to change his pit strategy. They're going to keep him out there, take advantage of the car running as hot as it is at the moment, and try and make up some ground in this race.
Pentax race cam tracking Garth Tander. So that leaves Jamie Whincup heading the field. It stopped all right. Little pause in our camera there. But it was,
great job, mate. Watch your speed. Going to be closing Lowndes on the exit. Good job.
So Courtney also went in. Greg Murphy also went in. Fastest lap of the race belongs to Stephen Richards, 150.73.
Lengthy stop for Ford Performance Racing Car 5, Mark Winterbottom, to repair some damage in their pit stop to the rear bumper. Tim Edwards, the team boss, is sending an email to officials wondering which car, please review, which car hit ours in the rear. Frosty's not sure. They want to know who's responsible.
Starting to see some speed now. Stephen Richards, as you said, 50.7 that lap. Remember the new lap record set yesterday at 49. Very, very fast for Jamie Whincup, 49.9 I think it was. And they're burning fuel down at the rate of about 2.5 kilos a lap. They started with, depending on how much you're burning, obviously around here between 70 and 80 kilos of fuel. This is the race leader. It was 0.8 of a second last time, and we expect Russell to run a little longer.
Jamie Whincup has about a second gap over Russell Ingall at the Lexmark Indy 300.
That please, mate.
This man's just having a great year. Jamie Whincup, the 24-year-old, leads the championship. Jason Richards in pit lane.
Watch your pit lane speed.
So too Jason Bargwanna.
Go, clear, mate, clear.
Stephen Richards is going to get the bad sportsmanship flag for constantly hitting the tyre bundles in car number 6. So that's a warning. If you weren't with us yesterday, you may be unfamiliar. The pit lane speed limit for the V8s in their half of the lane is 40 Ks as per normal, but when they transit the Champ Car pit lane, they're permitted to run up to 105 Ks, which works out perfectly because top speed with this diff ratio in first gear is 104 Ks, so you drive down the second half, this area we're looking at here now, at exactly 104 kilometres an hour, flat out in first gear. And then once you cross that yellow line, you're released and away you go. But you can make a straight line entry, or in fact you must make a straight line entry into the first chicane.
Shane Van Gisbergen and some of the Jack Daniels cars also going through. So Rick Kelly, after that off at turn 8, he's in 23rd position.
after that last lap move on Murphy yesterday for fourth. Russell Ingall is so confident in his car at the moment. He is about to come in. The boys are out ready to accept him for his compulsory pit stop. What jammed him yesterday, they said this car speed potentially was a top 2 car, but they had a 5-second slow stop with a gun that jammed. Plus, of course, as we spoke about earlier, they brought him in too early. Will this be the strategy that moves him up the order further? He is happier than he's ever been.
So good news on that half of the garage, but for James Courtney, for a pit lane speeding infringement, he's going to serve a drive-through penalty, black flag.
Just watching Mark Skate come into the pit entry, much cleaner than Russell Ingall, who got completely sideways on that kitty litter stuff. Talking of Mark Skate, the boys bringing him in now. They won't want any other problems with this car. They've run out of bits and pieces after the repairs overnight. If they have any more damage to the right front suspension components, control arms, they'll have to dig into the Bahrain toy box, and they don't want to do that.
Champ car pit lane.
He nearly reached for second gear there, which is his instinctive response. That was funny. He had to stop and think about it. If he had grabbed second, he'd be in all sorts of strife then. He didn't.
So much easier when there's a pit lane, a little bit of button.
Yeah. Well, it's just an instinctive thing. You release the button and away you go.
So Scape's back on course. On the road leader is Jamie Whincup. Stephen Richards, Todd Kelly, Steve Owen, John Bow and Jack Perkins yet to pit.
Well, it's been great debate in the Team Vodafone garage about when is the right time to bring Jamie Whincup in. Now, he is on a flyer at the moment, but it looks like they will bring him in the next lap or so. They've played the right strategy so far.
He's actually making margin at the moment, and very, very good speed in the first sector. Not quite as quick in his second sector, but they've been encouraging him with every lap to keep on making that gap. Good clean air, looking after the tyres, particularly the right rear, and looking after the brakes, which is an issue at this track, and in he comes.
Gotcha. Watch the oil in the pit lane. CPS light off. Lever in the up position. Rear tyres only. Nice and easy into the box, please.
Kevin May, crew chief.
It's a great view on the Pentax fly cam. Now down to ground level.
Clear. Watch your pit speed.
It's pretty efficient.
Okay, Jamie, cold rears. Make sure you watch your speed in the champ car pits, mate. Courtney's just been done, so nice and smooth through there.
Let's keep our eyes on the Team Vodafone car and Garth Tander coming down the main straight. So there's Tander. Now out comes Whincup. His teammate Craig Lowndes behind him.
And they're locked in battle, and now Jamie with cold rear tyres. It'll take about a lap or two for those tyres to come up to temperature and pressure. In the meantime, that speed that Tander's showing early in the race has put him in good shape. He did a 50.2, 1 minute 50.2 on that last lap. Fastest lap of the race so far. Getting perilously close. Oh, problem there. Missed a gear for Jamie Whincup, I'd say, or it's jumped out of gear. All of a sudden, Lowndes had to jump to the right and nearly nailed the back of his team.
No worries. Keep it cool. We've got some nice rear tyres on now.
Craig Lowndes has had to become the master of evasive action lately, this time with his teammates. So out of turn 3, right here, look at that.